On December 15, 1993, a clear, calm, and serene California sky became the setting for one of America's most infamous private aviation disasters. A seemingly ordinary flight carrying the two most senior figures of Californian fast food icon, In-N-Out Burger Rich Snyder and Philip R. West, then suddenly took a turn for the worst as the aircraft plummeted to Earth. The resulting crash was catastrophic and left no survivors. Investigations revealed that there were no faults with the IAI Westwind turboprop aircraft itself, and no errors were made by the pilots. The cause of this incident was turbulence left in the wake of a much larger commercial passenger 757 on approach to John Wayne Airport, which caused the smaller jet to lose complete control, with no time for the pilots to react. Today we will explore the tragic story of this famous incident, the lives that were lost, and the lasting effects it had on both In-N-Out as a business, which was forever changed by this one moment, and the wider aviation industry, which also changed following this high-profile crash. Let's begin by looking at the history of this American food icon, so we can begin to understand how tragic that fateful day in 1993 truly was. In 1948, in Baldwin Park, central San Gabriel Valley, Harry and Esther Snyder, a young couple with a simple vision, revolutionized the fast food industry. They opened a burger stand, but not just any old stand. This was a drive-through hamburger stand. It was, of course, In-N-Out, a name destined to become known for its simple but tasty food, and a commitment to quality over profits, where other chains did the exact opposite. Immediately, In-N-Out set itself apart from the competition. Freshness was their #1 focus. They refused to use frozen ingredients, only the finest, freshest meat and produce available, ensuring the flavor within each bite of their food was the best it could be. This made it an instant hit with Californians, and In-N-Out steadily grew. It became more than just a burger chain. It became a Californian institution. By 1990, they had opened their 57th location, located in San Diego County. In-N-Out endured by making it about more than just burgers. It was about a sense of family. The Snyders built their company with a spirit of togetherness, treating their employees like members of their extended family. And this continued even as the business expanded rapidly. The unique culture they built their company on made staff and customers alike feel a sense of loyalty to In-N-Out that you just don't get with other brands. However, nobody could foresee that in one fateful December morning, a tragic turn of events would take place that would change the company forever. That day was December 15th, 1993. On that Californian winter's evening, a routine flight carrying Rich Snyder, the newly married CEO of In-N-Out, Philip R. West, the company's executive vice president and COO, and two pilots, Stephen R. Barkin and John Otis McDaniel, crashed, leaving no survivors. At the height of the evening rush hour, the IAI Westwind business jet, a small twin-engine turboprop aircraft, was on approach following a United Airlines Boeing 757, a much larger aircraft, which had just landed on the runway 2 miles ahead. Suddenly, and without warning, the plane appeared to fall from the sky, crashing down in a ball of flame. Witnesses reported seeing the aircraft roll sharply and descend in a steep, uncontrolled spiral before crashing near the intersection of California State Route 55 and Edinger Avenue. Luckily, nobody on the ground was harmed, but the aftermath was a scene of utter devastation. Emergency crews rushed to the wreckage, but neither passengers nor pilots could be saved and were pronounced dead at the scene. The wreckage of the plane was scattered about 30 yards from the point of impact, and the crash site was roughly 3 miles away from the airport. The plane belonged to Robert Gumbiner of Long Beach and was typically stationed at Air Flight within Long Beach Municipal Airport. The aircraft had no history of prior incidents or any reported service issues. There were no distress calls. Air traffic control had reported no incidents, and initial investigations couldn't find a direct cause, such as running out of fuel, from the wreckage. However, it was suggested that wake turbulence from the 757 could have been responsible for the unexpected loss of control of the smaller plane. Large aircraft like the 757 generate powerful invisible vortices in their wake, turbulent air masses known as wake turbulence that push the air behind the path of the aircraft downwards. These vortices can be particularly dangerous for smaller aircraft like the West Wind, potentially causing them to lose control. Experienced pilots at the time advised that it was common for smaller jets to fly at an equal or higher altitude on approach to avoid wake turbulence, which always sank down behind bigger commercial aircraft. Once the full investigation had taken place, it was confirmed that wake turbulence was indeed the cause of the crash. Drifting into the wake of the 757, the West Wind experienced a sudden and violent upset. In a single moment, In-N-Out had lost its two most senior leaders in a tragic and upsetting incident. Both the men were instrumental in shaping In-N-Out's growth and upholding its core values, and whilst the first thing on anyone's mind was the well-being of their families, nobody knew, in the days following the incident, exactly what the future would hold for In-N-Out with these two figures gone. It could have been even worse. Snyder's mother, Esther, who co-founded In-N-Out with her late husband Harry back in 1948, had also been on the private jet, but she had got off at Brackett Field in Laverne, a previous stop, roughly 20 miles east of Los Angeles. The company had a rule, perhaps tongue-in-cheek, that the two executives should never fly together, to ensure any incidents wouldn't affect both powerful positions within the company at the same time. However, on this day, the two broke this rule, and West, despite taking some of the trip on a commercial flight, elected to fly back into John Wayne Airport on the chartered flight. It was thought to get home to his wife and child sooner. The rule the pair had broken may have seemed trivial, but the thing that rule was in place to prevent had just happened, and both men had lost their lives in a single event, leaving their families and the company they ran in crisis. In the aftermath of this devastating and tragic crash, the National Transportation Safety Board launched a comprehensive investigation to determine the cause of the tragedy and prevent similar incidents from occurring again in the future. The investigation examined all aspects of the incident, focusing on the preceding Boeing 757 and the potential that wake turbulence from the large aircraft could have indeed been the sole cause of the crash. Investigators were able to confirm that the West Wind had encountered wake turbulence. This is what caused the smaller jet to lose control, leaving the pilots with no time to react before the plane crashed devastatingly to Earth. The National Transportation Safety Board's findings exposed the dangers of wake turbulence. This shone a light on the need for stricter regulations and increased awareness of this potential danger across the aviation industry. As a direct result of this crash, given the high-profile nature within the U.S. due to who was on board, the Federal Aviation Administration made several significant changes. This included increasing the minimum separation distances between heavy and light aircraft during both approach and departure procedures. This ensured that smaller aircraft like the West Wind had sufficient time and space to avoid the turbulent wake of larger aircraft. Mandatory pilot training was also improved around wake turbulence, emphasizing its potential dangers and the importance of maintaining safe distances and operating at the appropriate altitude to avoid critical failures. They also ensured there were improved communication protocols between air traffic control and pilots, making sure that clear information is provided about potential wake turbulence encounters and warnings to increase distances, altitudes, or abort approaches entirely given if wake turbulence could be present. These changes, directly stemming from the tragedy in December 1993, have significantly improved aviation safety in the air, protecting smaller aircraft from the potentially devastating consequences of drifting into wake turbulence. While the loss of life in the crash was tragic, irreplaceable, these regulations have undoubtedly saved further lives in the years that followed. As for In-N-Out as a company, the loss of Snyder and West left a sizable void, but the business persevered and continued on, securing the family's legacy. After Rich died, his brother Guy took over as In-N-Out's president in 1994. During his 6-year leadership, he continued the company's rapid expansion, opening their 100th location in 1994 and increasing the total number of stores from 93 to 140. Sadly, Guy also died in 1999 from a painkiller overdose, leaving the presidency to his mother, Esther Snyder, who would take the company into the 21st century. This tragedy took the lives of key business leaders and forever altered the trajectory of one of California's greatest food success stories. Due to the high-profile nature of those who lost their lives, it also served as a reason for regulatory changes that could perhaps have been made earlier to ensure that incidents like this were prevented. By understanding the dangers of wake turbulence and making sure pilots know how to avoid them both in terms of distance and of altitude, crashes of this nature are rarely seen in modern times. So, the next time you're tucking into a juicy burger at In-N-Out or elsewhere, it is worth remembering the connection between the humble hamburger and the safety we take for granted when flying in any capacity.